Nerdcast assemble!
Stay dandy, baby.
Well, the time has come for me to finally review an episode of ReZero that I am absolutely not going to be able to do justice. This is, without a shadow of a doubt, probably one of the most emotional episodes of the series, which delves deeply into the psyche of Natsuki Subaru. Yep, it's that type of episode. You know what? I feel a little messed up after watching this one. At first, it was just completely crushing my world, and by the end of it, I was incredibly hopeful as Subaru finally gets over all of his insecurities as he prepares to return to the fantasy world that he now calls home. But this was an episode that I wasn't expecting. In fact, I didn't even mention it in my last review, which I'm a little disappointed on, how at the very end of the episode, Subaru suddenly finds himself in the real world that he is originally from, back at his parents' house. And I didn't expect it to be this type of episode where basically it was going to be sort of an exploration for him to find out who he truly is and who he can truly become. That's really what this entire episode is all about, and it gave me a completely different view on the type of character that Subaru really is. While throughout most of ReZero, he comes across as just kind of a lazy but very charismatic person, in the actual real world, he might be one of the most insecure characters that I have ever seen, and it makes his entire backstory all the more devastating and, frankly, just really depressing. But what I also loved about this episode is that we finally got to see some of his family, his mother and his father in particular, who might be the best anime parents of all time. I mean, in any other anime series, he'd either not have both of his parents or they would be completely dismissive of him. But you really get to see where Subaru gets a lot of his personality from, and that's most definitely from his father, who is so freaking hilarious and supportive that you just can't help but want to fall in love with the character immediately. And he's basically just a giant meathead who spews all types of, like, really inspirational messages to his son, but it all comes from a really good place. And his mother is incredibly sweet, and what I really love is that he is sort of like a perfect combination of both of them, looking very much like his father, but having the very same eyes of his mother, which are very piercing and almost kind of terrifying in some senses, which is kind of a juxtaposition to her actual personality, which is being a very comforting and supportive mother. But basically, this entire episode was all about Subaru confronting his past and coming to terms with it so that he can move forward, grow as a person, and return to the fantasy world. It was pretty clear that he was only going to be here for a little bit, and this entire episode also had this sort of like dreamlike quality to it. Like, it was very apparent that he wasn't truly back in the real world, or he was only there sort of temporarily, as there was this color scheme that was shown throughout where everything was sort of washed out and everything sort of like had these like feathered edges to give it this sort of like weird dreamlike feel to it, and that made it a really interesting episode. But essentially this one was all about Subaru and his past, where we actually get to learn that the reason the way he is because of his incredible insecurities when it comes to interacting with other people and the heavy expectations that they actually place on him, a lot of that doing with the fact that he's related to his father, who apparently is a very well-respected person, or is at least somewhat infamous in the town or the city that they actually live in. And we get to see that as a child, he wasn't exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he made a big splash with people by doing a lot of really crazy things. But over time, his friends sort of abandoned him and left him as this sort of like class clown type of character, and this is where the real Subaru finally started to come into play, where he sort of withdrew into himself as time went on. And when he finally made it to high school, he tried to make like a really big like splash with all of his students, and he wanted to like impress all of them, showing off the Subaru that he actually is in the ReZero show, you know, doing all the goofy shit, the weird disco pose and everything. And he basically just turns into this outcast and doesn't seem to basically make a connection with anyone. And this causes him to basically become this like scared, sheltered person who little by little starts to skip school and then just stops going altogether. And what's really remarkable about this scene is how his parents actually handle this situation. Again, like any other anime series, if they wanted to like add a lot of tension and drama and make it seem all the more depressing, the parents would constantly be hounding him about this. They'd be on his case, they'd be beating him down and berating him about the fact that he's not going to school. But even with this, his parents are so incredibly devoted to him and trying to inspire him to be the best person that he can be, they never give up on him the entire time. And it made the entire episode just so damned heartfelt. I didn't expect anything like this from this type of episode. His parents never gave up the entire time. They never hounded him about the fact that he's not meeting their expectations or going to school. They knew that eventually he would be able to overcome this, and this was shown in a number of really interesting scenes in this episode, especially with his father, who goes on a walk with him, and it's a really touching scene where his father keeps continuously asking him if there's a girl that he likes. And of course, this is all tied to the fact that Subaru has met some amazing people in this fantasy world, such as Amelia and Rem, and they've pretty much completely changed him for the better. They've made him a more confident person. They've given him a reason to move forward, to live, to become a better person. And it takes him a long time to actually realize this. And when he finally does, the entire mood of the entire episode sort of shifts into something else completely. That and the fact that his father continuously beats the crap out of him in the episode, which is really funny, trying to literally knock some sense into his very own son. It makes the connection with his father all the more stronger, but it also gives him the realization that this fantasy world has actually evolved him so much as a person, and that when he does eventually return to the real world, he's going to be a brand new Subaru, but not completely brand new. He'll still have his boisterous and fun personality, but he's now going to have the drive to overcome all of these crazy obstacles. It was such an emotional depth of an episode that it just blew me away. And both the mother and the father had a really touching scene with him, both of which had kind of like a completely different mood to them. I'd say the scene with his father was more about the confidence, and the scene with his mother was just more touching in the sense that she let him know it's okay to let your emotions out. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset because of your misgivings, but you're going to have to pick yourself up and you're going to have to continue to move forward. And of course, the moment where he has to say goodbye to both of his parents, saying that he might not see them again for quite some time, he has important things to do, and even then, they stay supportive. They still give him the drive to continue to move forward. And the episode ends with him returning to the school, metaphorically, as he opens the door and he sees a lone student, and that student just so happens to be Echidna. So this has actually been some sort of weird test that he's been thrown into, and Echidna is quite impressed over the fact that he made it through it so quick, when it felt like he was here for so long. So, what's the rundown on this episode of ReZero? This is one of the best episodes of the entire series, and one that finally delves a little deeper into who Subaru really is as a person, and it humanizes him in the best way possible. Before, he was sort of the goofy anime protagonist who was thrown into a really dark situation and really bad things were happening to him, but this makes me feel for him all the bit more, and it makes me realize how hard he's actually been pushing himself in this fantasy world. It's very much a complete opposite of what was going on in his real life, and it shows how much that it's actually changed him as a person. It makes him into way more of a developed character, and it also made me realize that the characterization of ReZero is just pitch perfect. It's just so fantastic in every single way. And they devoted a whole 29-minute episode entirely to this. And at first I was a little disappointed by that because of course I want to get back to the regular story. But after watching the episode, I realized how really important it was to Subaru's character and what an amazing trial this is going to be. You know, he's going to probably go up against all manner of crazy enemies as the series goes on and all sorts of crazy obstacles. But mentally, this is probably going to be the toughest one that he has ever gone through, and it's really important for his character. And it was a very touching episode. That's really the only way to put it. Again, I think one of my favorite things about it was the production value. It had this hazy look to it the entire time, which made you realize that there's something not quite right about this one, and it gave it a completely different feel than any other episode of the entire series. It was a gorgeous looking episode, and I really hope we're going to get to see his parents again because they are just a lot of fun. So, what can I say? This was a really solid episode for the character of Subaru, and I can't wait to see where the story is going to pick up from here, especially because I want to go to see what Amelia is doing after all this. I mean, we got to see Subaru going through this big test. I'd almost like a similar episode delving a little bit more into Amelia and the things that she's going to have to go through this trial, so to speak. Or maybe they'll just skip ahead to the next part of the story. All I know is this was a very strong episode of the series, which is why I have no problems in giving it a 5 out of 5. It was emotional, it was a gut punch type of episode, but it was an appreciative one. I'd really love to get your thoughts about this one. If any of you guys watched this episode of ReZero, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. Did you have any different interpretations as to what you got behind this episode? What did you think about all the things going on in Subaru's past, all the terrible things that he witnessed? What about his parents? Do you like them as characters? Do you hope to see them return? And what do you hope to see from the rest of this season of ReZero? So thank you guys so much for watching this review. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. Go ahead, make a fist, punch that like button. Helps out these videos so much, and it's really easy to do, so make sure to do that. I also want to thank all of my patrons who've been checking out my Patreon page. Not only have you guys been making some amazing donations to the channel, but you've been giving me tons of feedback on how I can improve the channel and the videos that I make. And of course, remember, if you do make a donation, I will review an anime series of your choice, so please make sure to do that. I would also love to add your name to this list of people who are doing a great job of supporting my channel. You guys are freaking awesome. So there it is, my friends. Thank you again for watching this video. I'll see you all next time. And as always, stay down there, baby.